Hello and welcome to another Zach Carnage deck profile, and this time we are taking a look at the new archetype which is taking tier 2 by storm. This is Infernoids. Actually, they're doing really well in certain situations, managing to get first place at a lot of smaller tournaments and doing really well in just general competitive play. So it's probably just mainly due to the speed and power of the deck, but let's take a quick look at what we've got in my personal build. So we're going to start off with the monsters. We play two of their biggest boss monster, Infernoid Anunku. If you saw my booster box opening for Cool Kingdom, you know that I managed to get one of these from the booster box, and pretty much the whole deck I managed to get from that booster box. So it's really worth your money to buy one of those. And this guy's awesome. Basically, he can blow up the field and negate any spell and banish it, provided you've got monsters to tribute. So he's really good for that. However, he won't be able to tribute himself like the others to banish cards in your opponent's grave, so leaving him out on the field isn't always the best thing, in that you won't be able to bring out anything else. So your opponent can just leave this on board, and then your options are rather limited at that point. So that's why we only play 2 rather than 3. It does require 3 to summon as well, 3 to banish in order to summon him. Then we play 3 of the best card in the deck, in my opinion, 3 Infernoid Atondel. This is the biggest beat stick at 28, and it can do double attacks provided it destroys something and sends it to the grave. It has the quick effect that you can tribute a monster and then banish a card in your opponent's graveyard, so it's really useful against Shaddolls and things like that. And yeah, it's just one of the best cards in the deck. Plus, being level 8, you can bring one out, and then because of the condition, you need 8 or less in terms of effect monsters, so you can bring another one out and just go from there. And we play 3 copies of Sightseemus. Slightly less good Atondel, basically. If you attack, then you get to banish a card at the end of the battle phase. And the same quick effect. It's a 7, so it allows you to go into rank 7s with another one of itself, or Blaster, depending on what you actually have at the point. And we play 3 of Patrulia. This is pretty good. This is just an 18 beat stick that can get rid of spells and traps. There's not really much to be said about it. Obviously it doesn't have the quick effects because it's one of the lower level Infernoids, but it does, it's still an Infernoid, only requires 1 to banish, and it's just a good card. We play 1 Harmodic. I know most people are playing 2 or even 3 of this since it can destroy monsters, but in my opinion, I think it's better at 1 just because it's somewhat limited in that you can't always destroy things that you want to. Antra's effect is better, plus Antra has a lower level, so I think only 1 is all you really need for Harmodic. It's not that good as a beat stick with only 1600 when you can go for Patrulia anyway, so yeah, I think Antra is slightly better than this, which is why I play 3 copies of Antra. Just that ability to bounce any extra deck monster that's really useful against things like Shaddoll. It's a much more versatile thing to be able to bounce any card rather than just destroy a monster, and I think I'd rather have that. So that's why I play 3 Antra, plus as it's level 2 you could bring out 2 of these, then a Patrulia, and then Atondel if you really wanted to. So it's really useful in that respect. Then we play 2 copies of what I think is potentially the worst, Infernoid Piatti. The reason why we play 2 of this is because it's a reasonable beat stick at 22, so that's slightly better than Harmodic, plus it can be brought out from the grave. That's why I play 2 of this and 1 Harmodic rather than 2 Harmodic and 1 of this. Yeah, just being able to come out with the grave is pretty good, plus it's good against rogue decks. Then for tech we play 1 Gauze, the Emissary of Darkness. I haven't seen many people playing this card. I think it's very useful in that most decks don't expect Infernoids to have any defenses to protect them if they don't get their plays off, and Gauze really surprises a lot of people. Plus it gives you an extra, you get that token which you contribute for Infernoid effects, especially on Anki's effect, so that's pretty useful. It's a 7, so you can make rank 7s with it, and if you hit this with Reasoning you summon it, so it's worth it. Pretty much the same thing goes for Blaster. I mean, obviously, people are expecting Blaster. It's a fire, so you can special summon it with that effect. But again, it's a 7 which doesn't require so much to bring it out, and Reasoning is really good with it, so that's why we play it. Then we have a mini Lightsworn engine of 2 copies of Raiden and 1 copy of Lila. Sorry, it's not my, I think Super or Ultra Lila, whichever one I've got, because that's in a different deck. So we've got the 2 Raiden and the Lila. Lila is just because you really need to get rid of back row if it's there, in a lot of cases, unless you can bring out an Unku. So that's why we play Lila. 2 Raiden because Raiden is faster than Lila. The reason why I play these over Card Trooper is it allows you to play Charge of the Light Brigade, which isn't a monster, so the great thing is that if you hit Charge of the Light Brigade with Reasoning, you don't have to worry about it, whereas if you hit a monster with Reasoning that isn't an Infernoid, it can be a bit annoying. But these guys tend to really cover pretty much anything, plus you can synchro summon with Raiden, which just makes it generically good. And the last tech card is Necroface, just for returning all of your banished targets to the deck, because you will run out of cards otherwise. So that's good for that. That's 23 monsters, I believe. Onto the spells, we obviously play triple Reasoning, with 2 commons and 1 Mosaic for some odd reason, but yeah. Best card in the deck, you just send pretty much everything you have to the grave, and then you can summon for days. It's wonderful. Absolutely brilliant card. Triple Voidseer for your protection. I've seen a couple of people playing this from the grave during their opponent's turn, which I don't think you're technically allowed to do. I think it has the same ruling as Breakthrough Skill, but if I'm wrong, please tell me and leave a comment in the comment section down below for that, because this is actually, not only is it really cool looking, it's actually a pretty decent card. It's basically Lance without the attack reduction. So yeah, that's why we play it, just protect the monsters from anything, really. Then we play 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. I would play 3, but I really don't think there's anything I want to cut for a 3rd, just because of back row removal, and I think the traps do a good enough job of dealing with them anyway. Then 1 Void Expansion, because drawing this is absolutely awesome if your opponent doesn't have any response to it, and just playing it. It's just unlimited Infernoid fuel, which can be really, really useful if you get stuck in a tight spot. So we only play 1 because it's a bit situational, but it's really quite a useful card in those situations. Then, as I said before, 1 Charge of the Light Brigade. We also play 1 Burial from the Different Dimension and 1 Monster Gate, which is slightly less good reasoning, basically. Burial is just to return fuel targets. It's a bit like a slightly better Necroface, basically. That's it for spells, and then onto the traps. Very, very simple trap lineup. We play 2 Needlebug Nest, because we want to fill up the graveyard as quickly as possible. 1 Raigeki Break, and 1 Phoenix Wing Windblast. I like having the versatility of not having double of either. And like some of them are better in certain situations, so if you draw 2, you actually get the choice, as opposed to having 2 Raigeki Breaks and thinking, oh, I wish I had a Phoenix Wing Windblast at this point. There are points where you wish you had the other one, but there's not enough space to have both, and it's always good to just have the 2 in the deck. And the last card is 1 Eye of the Void, which not only looks pretty awesome with Onunku on there, giving that Satellarknight a real fight. It's really useful in that you don't, because you're ignoring the summoning conditions, you're able to bring out whatever Infernoid you want, which can give you a very, very potent field and make it really difficult for your opponent to pull off anything against you. Obviously, if you've already got 7 out on the field with some other stuff, which is why you're playing this card in the first place, then maybe it's better to go for another 7 and build a rank 7 Xyz monster or something. But the choice is really up to you. Sometimes you do want to just go straight into an Unku, so that you have as much power on the field as possible, and you will get your effects in the following turn. It just means that you don't have to banish so much. Plus, you don't care about this being hit. So this is better than having more Infernoids in your deck, because if this gets hit with Reasoning, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to you. And I'm not going to go through an extra deck or a side deck for this, because I think side deck is really up to you. I would include the 3rd MST and maybe some Dust Tornadoes in there in case you like to get around Floodgates. Maybe even a Fairy Wind or 2 if you got some of those to help you deal with Cliff Orts and things. Obviously the deck is a terrible matchup against anything which can play Vanity's Emptiness, simply because the majority of the deck needs to special summon. So you might also want to include maybe a Raikou or some Lilas in your extra deck. Side deck. Extra deck is pretty much up to you. I would go with Dracosac and Big Eye, maybe like a Felgrand, Divine Dragonite Felgrand, maybe a Heliopolis for your rank 8s. Obviously staple rank 4s like Castell and Exton, and it's a pretty good idea to include something like Black Rose Dragon, because you use your targets to make a Black Rose Dragon blow up the field, then you have nothing on board, which means that you can go straight into your big Infernoid plays and just take on your opponent from there without like any chance of resistance. So that makes, like, Black Rose is definitely a decent card to have in. And don't forget that you can also include cards with no effects, like Gaia Knight, Force of the Earth, I believe, and Scrap Archfiend. Those are really quite useful in this deck. So as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave any comments or suggestions that you have in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profiles.